is official. We are recording. My name is Andrea Miller, and I'm the founding board member, and I am also the acting executive director of Center for Common Grounds. I am so glad that you joined us. All right. Very, 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 very good. All right, Josie, I've got a lot of cameras on. If you can begin getting those cameras off, I am going to attempt what is sometimes nearly impossible based on where I live. I'm going to be trying to share my screen. So let me work on that. All right, I've got my presentation up, and here it is. So again, everybody, welcome. Tonight we are going to be talking about the great state of Virginia and how in 2023 Virginia is going to be election central. Now, there are some new people that are here tonight, so I'm going to want to introduce you to Center for Common Ground, what we do, what some of our projects are. So we run the Reclaim Our Vote campaign, and we've run that campaign since 2017. We also have an internship program called Students for Justice. We run that program since 2020. That is a paid internship program. In 2020, we also started opening democracy centers where we are normally and mostly in southern states in large communities of color where people have just, in many instances, given up hope and they've stopped voting. So our Democracy Center project is really working to show people why they are going to want to vote and to make sure they have the information to vote. At the bottom left of my screen, you see some billboards, and on that billboard in the middle, see something, say something. Our board member, Deepak Puri, is here tonight, and he'll be talking about some of the tools that he's working on that will really help us not only with elections, but accountability and a number of other things. The mission of Center for Common Ground is a very simple one. We educate and we empower underrepresented voters in voter suppression states. Think Virginia, go south, go around the Gulf of Mexico, at Texas, go north and end up in Arizona. So that is our mission. And we work with voters that campaigns, candidates don't seem to care about, but their vote is very important. Now, I've got an announcement from our board co-chair, Reverend Rodney Sadler. If you are part of a faith organization, Reverend Sadler will be convening the National Faith Table. This will give our faith partners the opportunities to hear about what we are doing as we are discussing the concept of what we would like to do. They will get an opportunity to be a part of it. So if you want to share that information with people in your faith, and I'm going to say / faith adjacent communities, you can email Rodney at centerforcommonground.org. And next, I'm going to introduce another board member, Deepak. Some of you may know Deepak. You may know his blog, the Dem Labs blog. Others of you may have used some of the tools that DeepAct has developed over the year. So what I'm going to do is stop sharing my screen, and we are going to bring up DeepAct to talk about tools and activism and how we can be better at what we are already doing. So DeepAct, take it away.
Thanks so much, Andrea. Thank you to all of you for joining. I'm just getting my screen organized. So here we are. So as Andrea mentioned, a lot of people who are typically underrepresented and uninformed, what DEM Labs tries to do is I work on taking a topical issue and then kind of putting it out in the form of a blog. And I'm going to show you one from Virginia, and I'll tell you how this started, and then we'll go from there. So some of you may remember, like a couple of days ago, a young 6-year-old student shot his teacher in Virginia. I said, like, how in the world does this happen? And what a lot of people don't really get easily is there's a connection between what's happening and their elected official. And the easier we make it for them to follow, the better off we all are, because then they understand that by voting, they can make a difference. So I take a topic, and like you can see what the headlines are. The idea is to kind of make the blogs informative and engaging. They're very short, and I like to throw in cartoons just to kind of keep it interesting. But you're welcome to try it out later. But when I click on one, it's very interactive. And I said, okay, this kid shot his teacher in Virginia, but how good are the safety laws in your state? So this is an interactive map. It's on the website. And if I go in, and what you'll notice is, once you're engaged, this is the little animation up here about all these Republicans who are getting money from the NRA. So there's pretty specific. So I click on Virginia. You can do this for your own state. And then from the Gifford Center, it tells me, how does Virginia rank? Now, let's take a wild guess. Let's take a look at Louisiana. And Louisiana has the second highest number of shootings, and so on and so forth. And then I kind of put, who are the politicians responsible, and then how to get a hold of them. So in this little way, the idea is, let's take a topical issue, which people are aware of, and then kind of put it out there in the blog. And all of this is free to share. I'm going to show you two other things. So that was this map. The other thing which I do is, like, this came out yesterday, I believe. What I did was, this new Republican Congress, they're kind of coming up with some crazy stuff. So this is tongue in cheek, but I took 10 of the things that they're working on and put them in an infographic. Well, like, sure, whole bunch of investigations, abortion rights, this guy, Santos. So the idea is, let's get people involved in an easy to understand way, which is kind of fun. So although it's kind of hidden behind this, the blog is kind of, you don't have to strain yourself to understand it, but what you can do is you can share the blog. So maps is one, infographics is another, and another topic which is always evergreen is, this one was today's blog, which is, what in the world is the Supreme Court is about to deny people the right to strike. And the Republicans are giving away tax cuts to billionaires. What is going on? And then there's a lot of people who are not making a living wage. So this theme of, how do you follow the money? So this map, for instance, is, you can click on anyone. Let's start with our friend McConnell. And then, all right, here he is. So people can explore this on their own. What's he doing? Oh, so you can kind of it's pretty interactive. And then let's see what the Koch brothers have been doing. So I kind of invite people to investigate for themselves. And as they get more into it, you can see more details. Because to Andrea's point, if people are informed that this is what's going on, then I can kind of lead them into other stuff. So over here, these are some groups which are working on organizing, Fight for 15, gig workers, and so on. And then over here, I like to, I use pictures a lot because they work across different languages, age groups, and so on. And it's kind of a way to kind of get them engaged. So just to kind of, I promised Andrea I'd be brief. So just to tell you, and I'll tell you one final thing, which I'm really excited about, which is how do you reach, like, say, for instance, in a state like Virginia, where you have people in different languages, different immigrant groups, how do you reach them? And so one new thing that we're experimenting with, we actually have got this going already, is this idea, like, and I'll give you an example. Like a few days ago, about a week ago, the poor football player had a heart attack on the field. It's really tragic. And then all of a sudden, the Republicans start spinning this crazy story that, oh, it's because of COVID. And it's kind of disgusting at best, but the thing to take away from it is you take something in the news and you spin it quickly in a direction that you want. Now, those guys are masters at it, but it can also apply on the Democratic side, which is when there's a shooting, why did the shooting happen? Who's responsible? When your tax cuts are being given away to billionaires, why is it happening? So what we're doing now is, I'm going to just play this. Hopefully you can hear the audio, is we now have the ability to take an issue and create a video. Like, notice these two people here. I have it on mute, but what you'll be surprised to know is these people are not real. They're entirely computer generated. And notice but how they smile and generate. So I'm going to play a video. Just tell me if you can hear the sound. So this was about cash bail bonds. So, all right, here we go. It's 20 seconds long.
Cash bail frees the rich before a trial.
Can you hear the sound, Andrea? Just give me a thumbs up. Okay.
The rich stay out of jail before their hearings by paying bail. The poor, who are mostly black or brown, can't afford bail and end up in jail. Justice shouldn't be something you buy. It's time to make the justice system work for everyone, not just the rich.
So here's what's interesting about it is, to create this video, I simply type in what I want him to say, what the backdrop is going to be, what the call to action is. And then the program does this, and it takes, literally minutes. Watch this one now. Same.
La fianza en efectivo libera al rico antes de un juicio, pero encarcela a los boberos.
So I can pick the avatar. She's also totally like, it's the computer generated, but you'll notice she looks very real. And then here's the more interesting angle, like this group in California, they're working with the state, and the state is trying to reach immigrant communities. And many of them don't speak English. So watch this one. It's 15 seconds.
यह माता पिता के लिए एक महत्वपूर्ण संदेश है। सुनिश्चित करें कि आपके बच्चे
For those of you who don't speak Hindi, she's saying get your kids enrolled in this program. And watch this.
这是给父母的重要信息，确保您的孩子获得加州订婚印章。
So what you'll notice is I picked an avatar or spokesperson who is culturally appropriate, and the backdrop also has that kind of relevant family. And one final one I'll show you is this one.
هذه رسالة مهمة للآباء. تأكد من حصول طفلك على ختم المشاركة في ولاية.
Okay, so just to kind of wrap up, what I'd love you to do is, this is our blog, and I'll put the link in our website. It's the Democracy Labs, thedemlabs.org. There's lots and lots of examples here, and I'm typically writing one a day. But take the material, it's free to share, help spread the word. And if you're working on an issue or an area where it's helpful to have content that can either help get someone elected or highlight an issue, reach out to Andrea or me. And because these tools, we're picking tools that are free or close to free, and we can train other people to use the tools as well. So feel free to use this. If we can be helpful, reach out. I'll close with one final one, which I like. So this strike, this insurrection in Brazil, I said, well, like, let's take a look at these guys, see. So this again is interactive, like the people in Brazil were inspired by our friend here. And so I said, let's make it interactive to see, you know, what kind of chaos is being exported from the US. But anyway, I love this. Thank you for giving me some time, Andrea. I'll turn it back to you. And thanks again.
Hey, thank you, Deepak. You always are working on something interesting and amazing. So thank you very, very much. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen again, and let's go and get ready to do some work. Now, I've got information in Virginia. We had our first election of 2023 on Tuesday. So there are going to be many elections in Virginia. We are a state where we have an election every year. So on November 7th, our entire General Assembly, all 100 House seats and 40 Senate seats are going to be up for election. So right now, when you look at the Virginia House, we have 47 Democratic seats, 51 Republican seats. When they originally made this image, it was 21 to 18. There are now 22 Democrats after the January 10th election. Now, on Tuesday in Virginia, we had 3 elections. We had Senate District 7, which is over in the Hampton Roads area. And that seat became available when the state senator who held that seat won a congressional seat. She won Elaine Laurier's seat. So we lost a congressional seat, but we won a Virginia state Senate seat. And as you can see, the election was very, very, very close. So I always tell people, when you are dealing with special elections, it is all about turnout, and then turn out some more. Another election on January 10th was in Northern Virginia. Delegate Mark Keim joined the Biden administration. So again, not a lot of votes were cast, roughly 11,000. But again, in Northern Virginia, this race went pretty much the way we would have expected. And then we had a rural race in the Shenandoah Valley. So in that particular race, we again had a delegate die, and his widow ran for his seat. Now, when we look at the money, so again, there's about 10,000 votes cast. The widow, Ellen Campbell, raised about $57,000. And the young Black LGBTQ Democratic candidate, who's vice mayor of the city of Glasgow, raised roughly $3,000. So we're kind of looking at roughly $100 per vote versus $1 per vote. So very, very interesting. Now, our big race that's coming up, Congressional District 4. Congressman Don McEachin, who I knew for years, suddenly died on November 28th. Don had been sick for years. And so he had just won his race. And now that race is going to have to be run again. Now, the Virginia 4th District is our majority minority district. When we look at the racial makeup of the district by the numbers, it is 66.3% BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color, with African Americans at 41.2% being the largest racial makeup of the district. Now, the localities, and this is in order of size. The city of Richmond is the largest, followed by Chesterfield. The 4th district only has part of Chesterfield and part of Henrico. Most of the other jurisdictions, while significantly smaller, the entire county or city falls within the Virginia 4th. The only other partial district or county is Southampton. On December 20th, yes, there was an election on Christmas week. On December 20th, there was a special firehouse primary. Now that means the parties are running the election, not the state. The state was anticipating maybe 15,000 people would vote. There was literally 1 week's notice before when they announced when the primary was going to have to be to when the election was going to be. So there were 15 jurisdictions and there were 8 voting locations. We did a lot of work on turnout. We basically worked and sent roughly 80,000 voter contacts. We did a lot by text. We managed to do 6,000 by phone. And at the end of that day, this is the results. So roughly 27,000 people voted. There were about 700 votes where those votes did not count. People were not eligible to vote, or they voted provisional and they did not come in and clear the provisional ballot. So if you figure there were 26,000 votes that actually counted, Jennifer McClellan, our state senator, won 23,661 of those votes. So again, this is our majority minority district. Senator McClellan has followed Congressman McEachin in his elected footsteps. When he went to the Virginia Senate, she won his delegate seat. When he went to Congress, she won his Senate seat. And now we have that congressional race to win. Now, the third person shown here is not really running. He has not qualified to be on the ballot. So we are looking at a race on February 21st between Leon Benjamin and Senator Jennifer McClellan. The Republicans also had a firehouse primary, but it was basically by invitation only, and roughly 500 people voted. So 500 people chose the Republican candidate. 26,000 people had the opportunity to choose the candidate running on the Democratic Party side. I have some information about both candidates. So I've known Senator McClellan since 2008. The Virginia 4th District is very close to my heart. In 2008, I was the Democratic nominee for that district. Anyway, Senator McClellan, who has won the primary and will be representing Democrats in 2020, she introduced the legislation for the ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment. In 2021, she introduced and we passed the Virginia Voters' Bill of Rights. So while no other state in the union has the protection of the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, Virginia has its own version of that act. This year, the bills where she is the lead patron, paid family and medical leave, Virginia Sexual and Domestic Violence Victim Fund, Children's Comprehensive Health Care Fund, the Virginia Child Tax Credit, the Virginia Cannabis Incubator Project, and the big one for so many women, the constitutional amendment giving us the fundamental right to reproductive freedom. Now, Benjamin Leon, this is his third run for the Virginia 4th seat. Since he is not elected, we don't have legislation that he had sponsored or enacted. All we have is what he has said in public. He does believe that the 2020 election was stolen, so he is an election denier. He is a minister and he does not support the separation of church and state. He believes that basically they should be combined into a church state. And he also does not support public schools. He prefers public money for religious schools. So those are the main parts of his platform. So I'm going to invite you to phone bank with us. We currently have phone banks up and running for the 4 of the largest counties, cities that are in the district. And the phone banks run daily, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. I had to think about that for a moment. We're stopping the phone banks at 8 p.m. And every Wednesday, we have a phone bank training. So if you would like to sign up for a National Guided Phone Bank, otherwise known as phone bank training, you can go to centerforcommonground.org/phone banks. If you have phone banked with us before and you are comfortable using our PDI system, you may join any of these phone banks. Now, our phone banks, we use browser dialing so that you make the calls directly from your computer and we provide the phone number. So no voter will ever have your phone number. We also are doing postcards for this race. So if you wish to write postcards, you can go to centerforcommonground.org/postcarding. And there we have videos on how we postcard. We have links on where you can purchase your supplies. We use a program that was formerly called Voter Letters, that it's now Sincere, to distribute your addresses and the scripts and the labels. So early voting has started. Virginia has 45 days of early voting, and early voting is going to run until February 18th. So if you live in Maryland, DC, or Virginia, your mail by date is later. It's February 12th. Your postcard has a shorter distance to travel. If you live anywhere other than the DMV, DC, Maryland, or Virginia, you will need to have your postcards in the mail by February 7th. When we looked at the district, we decided we were going to prioritize the rural counties first. And we had two reasons for that. Number one, when we tried phone banking the rural counties for the call to caucus, there were so many bad phone numbers. We realized we're going to really need to rely on the addresses to get this information to people. The other reason is there is former delegate Rosalind Tyler's district was completely inside the 4th district in Emporia, Greensville County. Delegate Tyler was one of the people who lost her seat in 2021. So even though this is the majority minority district, turnout is going to be key, because we are asking people to vote in an election where they're like, didn't we just vote in November? Yes, you did, but the congressman died. So now we're going to be asking you to vote again in February. So the urban counties either are available now or will be available shortly. The urban counties would be Richmond, Chesterfield, and Rico. So we would love to have you postcard with us. And the overall elections that will be happening in 2023 in Virginia, we have the special congressional election on the 21st. There may be a special state Senate election because we expect that State Senator McClellan will win that seat, which would trigger a special election to fill her seat. Her seat will probably be filled by a sitting delegate, which would then trigger a special election to fill that delegate seat. By then, we will be in the June primary election, where early voting starts on April 28th. Again, remember, we have 45 days of early voting. The November 7th general election, early voting is starting on September 15th. So that's what our schedule looks like. I'm not going to go into the details on the next two slides, but right now, after redistricting, we have 16 Democrats that are running for the same seat. A number of our sitting Democratic delegates were redistricted into the same district. There are a number of new districts that were created. And so there are 16 seats where there will be a Democratic primary. On the Republican side, they have 14 seats where there will be a Republican primary. And again, we had the same situation. We had many sitting delegates who were redistricted literally into a district with another sitting delegate. And many of them, their new district was not the district where they previously ran. I want to invite everybody here to join us in our upcoming trainings. We are going to be doing trainings on Tuesday at 3 p.m. in the afternoon for the entire month of January and most of February. The first 3 courses that are scheduled on January 17th, becoming an effective citizen lobbyist. I was working as a citizen lobbyist on Capitol Hill from 2009 to 2019. This course is a result of everything that I learned in my 10 years on the Hill and my 2 years going to Richmond. On the 24th, we are teaching a course in getting earned media. Now, way back in 2007, I was a regional coordinator for MoveOn.org. And one of the jobs I had at MoveOn was I wrote training courses. These 2 courses both began as MoveOn courses, and they have been updated since 2007. NBC, Comcast, Universal, they were our consultants on the Getting Earned Media course on January 24th. And on January 31st, we're going to be doing our Civics 101, the federal government course. And I realized there was really a need for that based on so many people asking me so many questions about how and why the race for speakers was going the way that it was. I'm going to need to make sure everyone understands the concept of discharge petitions, because that will probably be the only way that sane legislation is going to be able to come to the floor. Because in order to become speaker, the people who are chairing the various committees are generally people that are not that interested in governing. So while they are in the House, they are more interested in burning the House down than they are in governing. So join us on Tuesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon for those courses. I'm going to stop sharing and say I am going to open it up for questions. Yes, some writers have expressed concern that our script for the Virginia 4 special election is too partisan. Our script is not partisan at all. We are merely stating facts that one of the candidates would be the first African-American woman elected to Virginia. That is historic. That is huge. That is very, very exciting. Oh, how long are the Tuesday trainings? They are generally going to be about an hour. There may be one, the lobby training, that could go on for an hour and 15 minutes. I've got a lot packed into that course. It depends on how many people ask questions. And yes, the links are here. Will the candidates elected to fill the cascading Virginia seats and special elections? Yes. The entire House and the entire Senate will have to run again in November. So anybody that gets elected in January, February, March, or April, they'll be running again for the November election. Yes. We love elections in Virginia, but when things happen, that makes it very, very, very difficult. Are residents of Petersburg and Richmond considered rural voters? That depends on who you ask. Virginia is still, when you look at how it operates, two states. There is Nova, which is Northern Virginia, and then there is Rova, which is the rest of Virginia. So the politics in Nova and Rova are very, 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 very different. Rova is most of rural Virginia. It has a few large cities thrown in. The city of Richmond, the capital of Virginia, is in Rova. And our counties right around Richmond, the Richmond suburbs, have more college-educated people than the more rural areas that are to the south and the east and the west of the city of Richmond. So while I think of Petersburg, Richmond, and Chesterfield as urban, many other groups consider anything that is not in Northern Virginia rural. And they made that very clear to me. All right.
Andrea, we have a few questions. One about if we're texting for this election, and then if you can speak to the relative effectiveness of postcards versus texting versus phone banking.
Yes, I can answer all those questions. We will be texting for this election. We do have an internal team of texters. And when we clean out all the bad numbers from the texting that we did for the call to caucus, we are going to have a relatively small texting universe. So number one, when we are looking at texting and making phone calls, there are many people where we don't have a good phone number. We have never been involved with an election in the Virginia 4th District before because it was the majority minority district. And it had an incumbent congressman that people knew and really liked. Now, this is not only an open seat, it is also a district where people are being asked to vote in February. So turnout is going to be key. I cannot say that enough. People do not know that the election is there. Now, the effectiveness of postcards versus text versus phone calls. One of the things about postcards is we are going to reach people in the rural districts that we would not be able to reach either way. Rural Virginia, especially in winter, is generally not something or a place where you can canvass. So nobody is going to try to canvass it. So that means the addresses are good. So the voters will get a postcard letting them know that the election is there. The postcard also lets them know when early voting is, that they will be able to literally vote now until February 18th. And there is also the phone number of the registrar. When we look at rural areas of any state, often there are no cell towers. There are no cell towers. That means you're not texting. You only have phone numbers. And because most campaigns really do not do a lot of outreach to rural voters, especially lower income community of color voters, many of those phone numbers are dead because no one has reached out to these voters in years. So in this district, postcards will be incredibly effective. We already know that text where we have good numbers in the larger urban centers work. Richmond, Chesterfield, and Henrico, Petersburg, and even Brunswick County, where we texted, all those localities had a huge turnout. The party was expecting maybe 15,000 people might show up. Remember, there was 1 week's notice. There were 8 places to vote in 15 jurisdictions. 27,000 people attempted to vote. In that election, because of the time frame, there were no postcards. There were only text and phone calls. So again, it's hard to compare them. It's what is the area where you're doing outreach. If you don't have phone numbers, then postcards are probably the best thing that you have. What I love about texting is it is incredibly fast. What I like about phone calls, and again, the head of our phone bank team is on this call. What I like about phone calls is it gives us the ability to have that dialogue with the voter. And apparently a number of the voters have been very excited about being able to participate in electing the first African-American woman to Congress. So again, this is the majority minority district. People are extremely excited about that. And again, it's more, she's a woman because both candidates are African-American. And this meeting is being recorded, and everybody who signed up, you will get notes as well as a link to this recording. And good, Josie just dropped the link. It's a campaign page, so hang on to that link. Oh, you're dropping in the individual
I couldn't
link.
find the campaign page, but I
Oh.
did make another one in case there isn't one.
There is a campaign
I'm overlooked
page.
it, I believe, yeah.
Yes,
I'll put that one in
yes.
the link. And any links that we've mentioned or pages we've mentioned, they will all be in a follow-up email that I will send out
Right,
by
right.
Monday next week. So don't worry if there's something that you all miss.
All right, I will give you the campaign page link because it was in the presentation.
Oh, great.
So here it is. This is, there we go. All right, now this is the campaign page. That will have all of our training courses on it, and there will be more courses coming. Those are the first 3. There will be another course, Civic Literacy and Public Policy, that will be coming up, and I'm not really sure what all the others are. There may be a demand for lobby training 202, where I teach people how to use the tools to do legislative research. So we will be teaching a course in that. And I realized at this time, with most of the legislatures going into session, people might be very, very interested in how do they research legislation and what is the most effective way to contact legislators. Yes, there are only, I believe, 200,000 addresses that were provided for this election. So again, it's a special election. We are only doing Black voters. We knew we were going to have less volunteers, and part of that was people are just not used to dealing with elections in February. So we scaled everything way, way back. And yes, every time I see sincere instead of voter letters, I'm just kind of thrown. I'm not quite sure what to think. All right. So, oh, thank you, Kelvin, for your very, very kind comment. And a shout out to Janice Gay and her team, where when they were asked, they really poured it on and called all of the jurisdictions where we put phone banks up for to let people know that that firehouse primary was there. So we've still got roughly 30,000 calls that are available for people to call. So again, we've got to let people know that the election is there. Knowledge is power, and you will be amazed at how appreciative people are when they find out that they have an opportunity. Josh, I'm going to open up your mic. I don't know if I'm going to make you oh, yeah, you're a co-host. You've got control of your mic. The District 24, where the young woman got 3,600 votes, we ran a phone bank into her district. There are not very many Black voters in the Shenandoah Valley. And there's even fewer where we had phone numbers. So again, Josh said those phone calls, letting voters know that that election was there, made a difference. The young woman was only able to raise $3,000. And again, she got 3,600 votes. So that's basically $1 a vote. The other candidate basically was at $100 a vote. Yes, the voter rolls that we use, and we use PDI, not NGPVAN. The voter rolls that we use give us the ethnicity of voters. So if we were doing AA, NHPI, Asian American, Native, Hawaiian, and Pacific Islanders, it gives us the country of origin of the voter and whether or not they speak English or their native language. For our Hispanic voters, it gives us country of origin. So a lot more information in that system. All right. Yes. Let's see. Yeah. And then there's postage is going to increase if you are postcarding to 48 cents. So just something to think about. If you need postage, you're going to want to buy it now. If you're really thinking about postcarding is going to be your activity as we go further into the year with more elections. So yes. All right. I love it. We got all that in exactly an hour. Wonderful. So thank you all so very much. Are there any other questions? Put them in the chat. Otherwise, hopefully I will see some of you on Wednesday at the phone bank training. I'm going to drop that link in centerforcommonground.org/phone banks. And I go into Sincere with voterletters.com, and then it automatically switches over to Sincere. All right. Sincere.com. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you. I'm still going in the old way. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Thank you all so very much. Fingers, toes, and eyes crossed for Virginia in that February 21st election. So take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.